Why do people say we can't afford Medicare for all when it works for the most expensive parts of our population, older and disabled people? It works like this. Rich people don't want to pay taxes. The hospital I worked at had charity care for someone like a homeless person, but first, they would try and get you to sign up for Medicaid, which is a program that uses government funds. They can also sell the debt to a collection agency, and then it becomes their problem, or some hospitals will sue you for payment. It's easier for them to say that than to actually explain why they don't want to. When it works for older and disabled people, it works. That's debatable. Tons of older folks on fixed income must choose between paying for a plan that covers more or paying for rent food. Some doctors won't take Medicare patients because they get less money than from other patients who have for-profit healthcare insurance. Fraud, while it exists for all insurance providers, is higher for Medicare than any other insurance provider. I'm not one of those people who says do away with it. I wish it was expanded too. But it's not a silver bullet. It comes with problems that need to be solved. Perhaps people want to see some fixes or reforms before they support expansion? It is never as simple as people don't want to pay more taxes. It comes down to what is the real cost, what is covered, and who is getting coverage. Should the providers set the cost? Should the government? What is covered? Are there services like abortions or reassignments that would not be supported by groups? This is a very complex issue, not unsolvable, but complex and would require a lot of very strong political leaders to make it go from idea to reality. Maybe they think it will cost too much in the long run, but if it works for some, it should work for all too. It's a confusing issue for sure. Insurance companies don't want Medicare for all, and insurance middlemen, they aren't going to get their cut. They aren't going to be able to jack up prices or interfere. They aren't going to be able to receive any high premiums and then deny paying out. Hospitals that add things to your bill that disappear when you ask for an itemized bill may be against it. People that triple the cost of common medications are going to be against it. It would just give corporations and the rich less leverage over the working class. They want our healthcare to be tied to our jobs, because it is already a huge expense only covering the old and disabled. The per-person cost would be smaller for everyone, but an extra 260 million people would still be a huge amount. This is the thing, though it doesn't work for those populations either. BTW, Medicaid covers the disabled, Medicare is for those 65 and older, although you can have both, but that's a different story. I've had a hell of a time trying to find providers who will accept Medicare. The docs don't want to accept it because the federal government is so slow to pay. I have a physician friend who ended up filing for bankruptcy due to the slow pay, and she was trying to concentrate on the disabled and elderly in her practice. The wait times for many who are in a national health care system are criminal. And right now, there are several articles from the UK where people are being offered euthanasia rather than treatment for cancers that are very treatable. They'd rather just let the elderly die than treat them. If you want to really look at horror stories, look at the VA system. My husband is part of that system, and I've had to get in people's faces, yell, scream, and worse to get him treated at times. There's a hidden subsidy where Medicare pays providers peanuts as opposed to commercial insurance, so providers rely on commercial patients to make up for the gap. In a Medicare for all scenario, either Medicare payment rates would have to increase and/or providers would have to find ways to be more efficient, which could involve longer waits for services. Finally, Medicare has coverage gaps to the point that the majority of recipients buy commercial coverage to replace or fill in the gaps. Things like absolutely no limit on out-of-pocket maximum and no out-of-country coverage. Some providers refuse to accept Medicare patients because of how little Medicare pays, and the problem with low payments is even worse with Medicaid. That's not to say universal Medicare couldn't work, just that you can't extrapolate current numbers to get the cost of a workable program. I love when people say, "How would we pay for it?" And I say, they can have the $1,200 per month I pay for my private insurance premiums, plus whatever my employer kicks in. That's plenty of money. Because we can't afford it. Plus, I know a lot of people on Medicare who will flat out tell you that it's garbage. Because they are stupid, that's why. Racism. Deeply coded, but that's what's going on. Read Howard Zinn. Because with nearly $1 trillion spent on military, there's just not enough money. Don't blame the soldiers, though. They see very little of it. War is a racket. The brainwashing machine has been working extra hours. In US is bad to give money to the poor, while at the same time we're giving out billions to the rich in different ways. Call it tax breaks, subsidies, regulations, contracts, political donations, politicians selling Bibles, shoes, watches, and FDS. Some people are like, but we don't want to give our healthcare power to the government. Have you been to the DMV? To that I say I have. It works well and no one makes a profit off of it, so I'm down. Medicare for all would cost $35 trillion over the next decade. However, keeping our current healthcare system will cost $50 trillion over the next decade. We could put that spare $15 trillion to good use. We could lower the deficit, make college free, invest in R&D, end homelessness, invest in clean energy. It eats up a huge portion of the national budget more than anything else, and because it's non-discretionary, everybody who is eligible gets it. The Medicare budget expands, and fast. There's a reason Medicare now offers to route your monthly payment $175, mandatory to any one of several private companies. A lot of us aren't thrilled with Medicare covering only 80 of our health care costs, leaving us with the remaining 20. Private companies take that 175 and offer much more. My newest policy has no copays, 375-day for inpatient care includes surgery for the first 5 days and 0 thereafter, 100 free dental cleanings, X-rays, and an additional $3K in dental care each year, free transportation, 28 free meals delivered to your home post-surgery, 200 toward eyeglasses contacts, and 375 year for gym membership or home exercise equipment.